Most engines nowadays are turbocharged. The reason is a simple one, for efficiency. And there are a few tips and tricks which you can use to protect your turbocharger or turbochargers. And I will share those tips in this video. Tip number 1. Allow the engine to heat up. This is available for any kind of engine, but especially in turbocharged engines, allow the engine to heat up. The reason, you need to have a thin oil running through the turbocharger. At first, when you start the engine, the oil is thick and you won't have the proper lubrication throughout the turbo. At the optimum operating temperature, the oil reaches around 100 degrees Celsius, and that's where you have proper protection for your turbo. Unless you want to destroy it or to add extra wear to your turbocharger, allow the engine to heat up. Tip number 2. After a long, aggressive drive, allow the engine to run at idle for at least 3 to 5 minutes. Temperatures in a turbocharger can go up to 1000 degrees Celsius, so after a long drive, after a long aggressive drive, or after being on a racetrack, make sure to leave the engine run on idle. By allowing the engine to run at idle, you will cool down the turbocharger and the entire engine. I've seen lots of engines and lots of turbochargers which had lots of oil leaks and even oil in the intercooler, and the main reason is because most people don't allow the engine to cool down. After a long drive, they pull over and they stop the engine immediately, and that's an extremely bad habit. It adds a ton of wear to your turbocharger and you may have oil leaks around the turbo. Tip number 3. Turbo logging. By logging, if you have, let's say, 1200 RPM and you kick down the acceleration pedal, you barely feel any kind of pull, any kind of torque, and when you're forcing the turbo to give you boost at 1200 RPM, when it was built to give you boost between 1800 RPM and 4000 RPM, you are basically forcing it to give you boost when it can't do it. And the reason why your turbocharger kicks in at around 1800 RPM is because below that RPM range, you don't have enough pressure of the exhaust gases to give you the demanded pressure, the demanded boost. And by lagging, when you kick down the acceleration pedal for boost, when you don't have enough RPM, will add extra pressure and extra wear to your turbocharger. Simply downshift or wait or accelerate smoothly until you reach, let's say, 2000 RPM, and then you can kick down. Continuously forcing it, logging it, you will destroy your turbocharger over time. Tip number 4. If you have a diesel engine, if you have problems with your DPF, if your DPF is clogged, if you have a light warning, errors, faults with your DPF, replace it or clean it as soon as possible, because having a clogged DPF will add a counter pressure to your turbocharger. Basically, the turbo wants to force induct air into your engine for more power, more boost, but you can't evacuate the exhaust gases because the DPF is clogged. It's just like a seal over there, and you are literally destroying your turbo. I've seen this issue like hundreds of times. Each time I've seen a clogged DPF, after fixing the DPF problem, deleting it, remapping it, replacing the DPF, cleaning the DPF, until you don't fix that, the turbo suffers. And I've seen a lot of people, after they replaced their DPF, immediately after the DPF replacement, the turbocharger failed. So that's the main reason why turbochargers fail after a DPF replacement. The turbo wants to force induct air, but it can't work properly because the DPF is clogged and it acts like a seal. So what I'm saying, immediately after you have a fault on your DPF, if it's in limp mode, immediately go and fix your problem, unless you don't want to destroy the turbocharger as well. And tip number 5, use a thin oil. If you have a turbocharged gasoline engine, the best oil that you should use is the 0W40, especially if you drive aggressively. A 10W40 shouldn't be used if you have a turbocharged gasoline engine, especially if you drive aggressively, and especially if you live in a cold area. If you have a turbocharged diesel engine, you should use a 5W30. It's thin, it's highly recommended for it to drive in normal conditions, even a bit aggressively. And the 5W30 with ash accumulation additives is highly recommended for your DPF, for the health of your DPF. So let me know in the comment section if you have any questions regarding turbochargers, problems, issues with your turbo. Subscribe if you haven't already for more car videos, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.